You're listening to the Trucking True Crime Podcast, a podcast that centers on crimes within the trucking industry. Created by your host, Angela Baum, a team truck driver and true crime enthusiast. Grab your cup of coffee and join us as we take this over-the-road journey together on today's Trucking True Crime Story.
Well, welcome back, all my Trucking True Crime fans. I'm so thrilled you decided to join us. I am your host, Angela Baum. I'm a full-time truck driver with a passion for true crime. So I decided to put my two loves together to create this podcast. Before we get on with today's case, if you would please give us a 5-star rating wherever you are currently listening to our podcast at. Also, please be sure to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. In today's society, there are so many of us that have gone through a bitter divorce. We all have hopes of possibly finding new love after our bitter divorce. That point in your life when you're trying to raise your child from your first marriage, but you still have to hold down a job and you begin to miss having that someone special to share your day with. That person that when you come home from a hard day at work, that you can just vent to and unwind with. Someone to go out with on the weekends and share those special moments. This was the place that Lisa Knuffel had found herself in. Lisa was a social worker who specifically dealt with children who were sexually abused. This was by all means a selfless job that Lisa really took pride in. She was the type of woman who went above and beyond to make a difference in everybody's lives. So much so that while being a single mother to her daughter Megan, she also became a foster mother to children who were in the dire need of having a foster parent. Even though her life was busy being a single mom and her very fulfilling career, she was like so many of us, and she just dreamed of sharing it all with that someone special. Kevin, who was also a newly divorced father, had one son and was also looking for that someone special. Kevin, to so many of his friends and family, was known amongst them as a jack of all trades. He had been a school bus driver for many years and now was an over-the-road truck driver and an EMT. It wasn't long before mutual friends between Kevin and Lisa decided that these two needed to be set up on a date. And they even chaperoned their first date to make sure that everything went smoothly. The sparks between these two almost immediately began to fly. And within just a year of dating, the two of them decided that they needed to tie the knot and truly become a blended family of 4. Just a few months later, the happy couple announced the birth of their daughter that they had together, Haley. Now the family of 4 became a family of 5. And this family of 5 really thrived as they got used to their new life together. Now, even though Lisa was happy and content in her new life, being a mother and a wife and a social worker, she knew that she still had so much more she could do, and there was more ways that she could give back to her community. So 2 years after Haley was born, Lisa decided that she wanted to open up her home to a young foster girl. The girl was 16 years old and her name was Sabrina. Sabrina Zurich was a troubled young girl who had had such a hard life. Growing up, she had been both physically and sexually abused. And Lisa, being Lisa, knew that she was the one person that could possibly offer her a loving and stable home environment. And maybe for the first time in this young girl's life. Now, on a frigid November night back in 2012, the happy life of the Knuffel family that they had built slowly started to fall apart. 911 got a phone call from the Knuffel family home from their then 14-year-old Megan, who was on the other end of the phone crying and screaming hysterically. So much so that when the operator picked up, she was having such a hard time just trying to make sense of what the young girl was trying to tell her. The desperate young girl on the other end was trying to tell the operator that something terrible had just happened at their home. All the 911 operator could truly understand in the phone call at first was that the young female was telling her that there was someone within their home that had a knife. Not knowing exactly what was going on, the 911 operator knew that she had to get help to this house quickly. She could hear the screaming and the chaos in the background, but still could not get very much information out of the young girl on the other end. She immediately started notifying officers that she had a distraught young woman on the phone screaming that someone was in their family home and had a knife. In the background of that 911 call, the operator could hear the young girl speaking to who we now know, and she was saying, "You are going to kill my mom. Stop. What are you doing?" The 911 operator tried her hardest to try to get Megan to calm down and take a deep breath so she could help relay to her exactly what was going on inside the family home. In the background, you could hear Lisa begging for her life in the background, with a lot of commotion and screaming going all around. The 911 operator was so confused. She didn't know who had the knife and who was threatening this young family of five. Officer Randy Mullock was one of the first officers to hear the call come over the radio. He knew immediately that this was a dire situation, some type of domestic dispute. Officer Randy Mullock said that he will never forget the scene on Chagrin Drive when he pulled up. He said that he had no idea that when he walked through that door, a family would literally implode. When he pulled his police cruiser up to the home, he noticed a young teenage girl was crying on the front porch. She began frantically waving at the police officers to come inside of her home. As the officers approached Megan, Megan told them that her mom was in the back master bedroom at the back of the house and that her sister, Sabrina, was killing her. At this point, the police had no idea what they had just walked into, and nothing could have prepared them for the horrific, bloody scene that waited inside for them. As the two police officers started down the hallway, they'd started to see a trail of blood leading to the back bedroom. Officers slowly drew their weapons out of their holsters, still not sure what lied ahead for them. As they slowly began to make their way down the dark hallway, suddenly a red-headed teenager came out of that back bedroom. She was covered in blood, and in her right hand, she was holding a knife. When the shocked police officers saw just how much blood this girl had on her, they said that they knew that whoever was in that back bedroom was beyond saving at that point. One officer on the scene said that it was like the girl had literally just bathed herself in a bath full of blood. That's how bad the bloody scene that they had walked into was. Police gathered up Sabrina and Megan, took the two girls to the police station to try to decipher what exactly had gone in the house. The coroner and EMTs began to work in the back bedroom where they discovered Lisa and began to figure out how exactly to get her out of the master bedroom. With each of the girls in separate rooms down at police headquarters, the police went in to speak with Sabrina first. Sabrina began to tell them about her night. She said that it had all been a fairly normal night, that she had had a headache and hadn't been feeling very well that night. She had been suffering from a debilitating migraine almost the whole day. Finally, around 7 o'clock that night, she had gone into the master bedroom to go into the medicine cabinet that was located in the bathroom to look for some headache relief pills. According to Sabrina, this was the last thing that she remembered of that night. Everything after that was totally dark and totally blank. She said it was like she had blacked out or something. But police immediately knew that there was no way that someone would have stabbed someone over 170 times and not remembered a thing. At that point, the police had just found out Lisa's body that was back in the master bedroom had been stabbed with a large knife over 170 times. And police were not buying the story that Sabrina was passing, saying that she didn't remember what happened, that she just blacked out. But before police could question Sabrina any further about that night, Children and Family Services brought Sabrina a lawyer, and the police had no choice but to stop questioning her. See, Sabrina had not officially been adopted by Lisa and Kevin as of yet, so technically she was still a ward of the state. So, having no other avenues to go on, police began to speak with the social workers who had been dealing with Sabrina. They wanted to find out her life story and how exactly she ended up in the foster care system. But more importantly, how did she come to live with Lisa and Kevin and the rest of the kids? Sabrina had a lot of issues going on with her family growing up. Both of her parents had abandoned her at a young age, so she went to go and live with her grandmother. Now, her grandmother did the absolute best she could in raising Sabrina, but sadly, Sabrina's hard upbringing wound up leading her down a path of drugs and stealing. It was not long before she even began to steal from her very own grandmother. This wound up landing Sabrina in court. When the court began to evaluate the living situation with Sabrina and her grandmother, the courts felt that they had no choice and decided that the best option for everyone involved was to put Sabrina into a foster care system. Sabrina's social workers really felt that Sabrina was the type of girl that longed for a true home life, a family, someone that she could feel that she belonged and felt like she had a family. That is when the social workers decided to place her with Kevin and Lisa, hoping that this new loving and stable family life would not only enrich and benefit Sabrina, but also enrich and benefit Kevin and Lisa and the kids. Sabrina was so excited to finally have a place to call home, a family, a mother, a father, a sister, and a brother, and probably most importantly for a teenage girl, her very own bedroom, her own place. Over the next few months, Sabrina really started to thrive in the Kneffel home. She began a new high school, began to make new friends, and even started to join some of the clubs at the high school and socialize with a lot of the kids. Before long, they even began to see that her grades were starting to improve. Teachers were so impressed with all the improvement that Sabrina was making in her life. Everyone from Lisa and Kevin to her social workers felt that this is exactly what Sabrina had always needed in her life: a little bit of love and a lot of stability. When police informed the social workers that they had suspected that Sabrina was the one that had fatally stabbed Lisa, no one could believe that Sabrina could be capable of that. The Sabrina that they all knew, yes, she was a troubled young girl, but she was not aggressive or violent at all. They felt that if Sabrina had truly done this horrific crime that the police were accusing her of, that there had to be a reason or someone who helped or encouraged her to do so. And the police were beginning to feel the same way, that this horrific crime was probably not committed by just Sabrina alone. They knew that the next family member that they were going to have to talk to better understand the dynamics of the Kneffel family was the father, Kevin. But after speaking with their supervisors, they agreed to allow Kevin a little bit of space. They wanted to allow Kevin to grieve. So they began to work with the evidence that they had already compiled and were ready on. Kevin, according to his family members, was in a complete state of shock. He just felt so bad that he was not at home when the incident occurred. Kevin was working the night shift as a semi-truck driver, and he had been out on his route when everything had happened. Besides, the police had gotten his e-logs from his employers, and the e-logs proved that he was nowhere near the crime scene on the night. In fact, it showed that he had been working on the border of Ohio and Michigan at the time of the crime. So police felt confident that he had nothing to do with this. And they felt that their time was better spent allowing Kevin to take care of his two children and to, of course, plan out the funeral for Lisa. While police knew who the guilty suspect was in this murder, what they didn't know was the why of this case. What was Sabrina's motive? There had to be a reason why this young girl, who by all accounts loved her new home and loved her new family, would suddenly wind up killing her foster mother. Later on, a coroner report that was pronounced to the police showed that Lisa had suffered over 170 stab wounds all over her body, and that Sabrina's weapon of choice was a 15-inch bread knife that she had removed out of their knife block out of the kitchen. The blade on the knife was completely bent in half, which tells you just how much force that she was using with each and every blow that she struck. Shortly after receiving the coroner's report, they get a call from Sabrina's lawyer saying that Sabrina is finally ready to sit down and speak with police and give her side of the story. Before police had Sabrina come in for her sit-down interview, police decided that they wanted to run the cell phone records for everybody within the household. They were wanting to check everybody's text messages and everybody's ingoing and outgoing phone calls. What they discovered was starting a few weeks before the actual murder, things in the household had been very tense. It seems that Lisa and Kevin were starting to fight a lot, and it seemed that it all had to do with Sabrina. It seems that Sabrina had got along great with Megan and Kevin, but she felt that Lisa was too strict of a mother and was too hard on her. And to make matters worse, Lisa felt that Kevin was not having her back when it came to disciplining Sabrina. Also, Lisa and other family members had started to see Sabrina starting to openly flirt with Kevin, which everyone felt had become very inappropriate. Everyone except for Kevin, who kept making excuses for Sabrina's behavior, blaming it on her upbringing and the abuse that she had suffered as a child. It was clear to police that Lisa felt that Kevin and Sabrina were getting way too close for comfort. In fact, so much so that she had been contemplating having Sabrina removed from her home and put back into foster care. Lisa was also concerned about the close relationships that Sabrina had with her daughter Megan and Haley. She felt that Sabrina was fascinated with Haley as well and was trying to act like a mother figure to both Haley and Megan, which made Lisa feel extremely uncomfortable. Finally, one day, Lisa had had enough, and she told Sabrina that she simply could not take any more of Sabrina's acting out and not listening to her. That she had made the decision that she was going to be sending her back into the foster care system. And this happened just a few days before the murder. According to friends and family, Lisa had told Sabrina that as soon as a foster care family opened up, that Sabrina would be leaving. 6 months after the murder, Sabrina had finally decided to come in with her lawyer, and she wanted to share her story and her side of things. When she first started sharing her story with the police, it was exactly the same story as what she had told police 6 months prior. But then Sabrina said that things between her and Lisa started to get really tense. Sabrina said it was because they were arguing so much and butting heads. She began to feel like she was a true outsider in her brand new family. She began to feel like she was just a foster child, that she wasn't their daughter, and she didn't feel like she was included in family decisions and family matters. This is when she began to lean on and confide in Kevin. Sabrina told the police that Kevin was an easy person to talk to. She felt that he was non judgmental and that he knew exactly where Sabrina was coming from. Finally, she confirmed to police that Lisa had told her that when she was done, that in just a few weeks she would be going to a new home and that she would be leaving her family that she had. Sabrina said it was at that moment that she just lost it. She felt so much rage for Lisa when she realized that Lisa was going to be sending her to a new foster home. She hated Lisa for trying to take away her new family from her. On the night of the murder, she said that she stood at the foot of the bed with the knife in her hand, just watching Lisa sleep. Sabrina said that she was trying to work up the courage as she nervously paced back and forth at the end of the bed, when all of a sudden Lisa turned over in her bed and began to look at her. In Lisa's confusion of just waking up, Lisa thought that Sabrina was actually her daughter Megan at the end of her bed. She looked up at Sabrina and she said, "Megan, go to sleep." Sabrina said that is when she lost it, that she flew into a blind rage, and she simply could not stop herself. Even when she heard her own sister Megan screaming at her in the background to stop. But Sabrina's story did not stop there. The horrific details that she was about to admit to would horrify the police. As police suspected, Sabrina did not act alone when it came to killing Lisa. Someone else had helped her carry out her diabolic crime. Sabrina told police that she took responsibility for her crime, but if it had not been for him, it never would have happened. Police looked at each other. Who was she referring to when she said, if it had not been for him? Well, according to Sabrina, she was speaking about Kevin. She said that the two of them had grown to hate Lisa. He had confided in her that he had grown to hate his own wife as well. And according to Sabrina, this is what the two of them bonded over, was their shared hatred for Lisa. This began an emotional and soon physical affair that lasted months prior to the murder. When they were not together, Kevin would share that he had fallen out of love with Lisa years ago. He claimed to Sabrina that he could not stand her controlling ways. He even shared with her that he wished that Lisa was dead, and then the two of them would be free to live a new life. To make things even worse, Sabrina told police about several life insurance policies that Kevin had taken out on Lisa. Kevin kept implicating that Lisa would be worth more dead than she would have been alive. So the two of them began to fall in love, and according to Sabrina, they began to dream of a life together where she would help raise Haley and Megan, and the two of them would live a life happily ever after without Lisa in the picture. It was not too long before the two of them were secretly plotting ways that they could be rid of Lisa. From hiring a hitman to having Sabrina accidentally shoot her. But soon the two of them decided together to stab her. Kevin even went so far as to pick out the knife that he felt Sabrina should use. The reason that he chose a long 15-inch bread knife was that he felt that out of all the knives in the house, this one would inflict the most damage to her body. And in Kevin's mind, he told Sabrina that because of her abusive background, that she would have been tried as a juvenile and not an adult, and she would probably only have to deal with probation until she was 18 of years age. Then, after she turned 18, Kevin would be there waiting for her with the life insurance money, and the two of them would run off and rebuild their lives together with Megan and Haley. As the police started to put together a case against Kevin, they kept coming into walls. The reality was, there really was no tangible evidence to prove that Kevin had anything to do with the murder. When cell phones were dumped, there was really no photos or text messages that insinuated that either one of them were in any type of relationship other than father and stepdaughter. There was no photos of the two of them in compromised positions, no sexy text messages, and there was no family or friends that could corroborate that the two of them were having anything of a romantic nature going on. Really, the only thing they had to tie the two of them together was Sabrina's word and the fact that after Kevin had received the life insurance money, he kind of went on a shopping spree. After he got his life insurance money, he went out and bought an RV, a boat, and a couple of new cars. Kevin's family and friends, on the other hand, steadfastly believed that Kevin was completely innocent. While they all agreed that Sabrina was a flirt and had been that way around Kevin, no one believed that he had anything to do with Lisa's murder. They felt that Kevin loved Lisa and was a good father. They all felt that Sabrina was throwing him under the bus so that she might receive a lighter sentence if she was to testify at his trial. So, with the evidence they did have in hand and the police believe in Sabrina's version of events that night, the police went on to arrest Kevin. Kevin was charged for conspiracy and complicity in aggravated murder and also sexual battery for his relationship with Sabrina. But Kevin and his family all vehemently denied all charges that were against him. So the two of them, Sabrina and Kevin, both were slated to head to trial. Kevin's trial started first. They called people who had seen signs of the two of them flirting to the stand in order to testify. They also called Sabrina's caseworker. Sabrina's caseworker had said that just a few weeks prior to the murder, Kevin had actually called the office. He had explained to the caseworker that him and Lisa were not doing well and he was afraid that they were possibly heading for a divorce. And he was curious what would happen to Sabrina if the two of them were to get divorced. He wanted to know if he could still keep Sabrina and still apply to legally adopt her. The social workers said that they were shocked because they thought everything in the household was going well. The social workers also felt that it was a little bit peculiar that he would still want to adopt a 17-year-old girl. They also showed text messages and phone calls between Kevin and Sabrina the last few months before the murder took place. And it was almost 3 times more phone calls and text messages than Kevin had ever made with his wife, Lisa. Next on the stand was Sabrina. Sabrina told her story to the jury of her peers about the night of the murder and how the relationship between her and Kevin had gotten started. Sabrina also shared that the day after Lisa was murdered, Kevin had actually come to the jail to visit her. She claimed that Kevin had just came to the jail to make sure that she wasn't talking to anybody, especially about his involvement in the murder. The next to take the stand in Kevin's trial was Sabrina's high school friend named Autumn. Autumn said that she had known about the murder plot. She also said that she knew about the relationship between Kevin and Sabrina. She even admitted that one night she had received a call from Sabrina asking if she knew how to hire a hitman. Sabrina began to tell Autumn that they could pay the hitman in drugs so that there was no money exchanged. Autumn said that during the phone conversation, she could hear in the background a male voice who kept interrupting Sabrina as the two of them were trying to talk to each other. Eventually, she put Kevin on the phone to discuss the plans. But in the end, Autumn said that she got cold feet, and she told them that she could not help them out. Autumn also admitted that with the police help, she called Kevin and wired the phone to discuss with him how she was worried that the police were going to start looking into it and realizing that she could be a part of the murder. She said that she was scared that police would know that she had been asked to try to find a hitman and she was scared about possibly being arrested. During that phone conversation that was wired and recorded, Kevin tried to deny that he knew anything about what Autumn was talking about. He didn't admit that he knew anything about the murder plot or the fact that they had asked Autumn to help them hire a hitman. Now it was the defense's turn to try to blow up Sabrina's story and to show that she was just looking to have Kevin be a scapegoat for her. The defense began by calling and challenging the witnesses that they had said saw flirting between both Kevin and Sabrina. They had asked them, well, if you did see the flirting between the two of them, why didn't you report these acts? Especially because some of the people that had testified about seeing the flirtatious between the two of them were actually court mandated social workers. Then the defense addressed the recorded conversation that was made between Kevin and Autumn. They tried to say that he didn't say anything incriminating on the tape, so they weren't really sure why they even submitted the tape into evidence. Because on the tape, it was clear that Kevin had no idea what Autumn was speaking about when she was talking about them wanting to hire a hitman. Then the defense lawyers reminded the court that there was no photos or text messages proving that the two of them were anything more than foster dad and child. And lastly, they tried to cross-examine Sabrina's testimony, trying to prove that she was just trying to throw Kevin under the bus in order that she would receive a lighter sentence for murdering Lisa. In the end, it took the jury less than 12 hours to deliberate in Kevin's trial. He was found guilty on all three charges. Kevin was sentenced to life in prison. Sabrina was also found guilty for her part in the murder of Lisa, and she too was sentenced to life, but she will be eligible for parole in just 13 years. Lisa's surviving children, Haley and Megan, also filed a civil lawsuit against both Sabrina and Kevin on behalf of their mother. In the end, the girls won a judgment of over $8 million between Kevin and Sabrina. I hope you enjoyed this story, and please remember we've got 2 more podcasts already recorded for you. We'll have another one up next week and one the week after. The story that we're going to have up next week is a really sad case about a young girl who was found murdered in the middle of a field. And this is just a horrific case that has just recently been brought to light. As always, please be safe out there, my roadies. I really appreciate all your support. And please be sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you're currently listening to us at. And don't forget to join us over on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. As always, be safe, my roadies.